Hello, future designers and developers. Today we are going to be starting a video tutorial on creating this site right here. This is Tacolicious Tacos. So we're going to be breaking this up into a couple different sections. We are going to be starting with coding out this section over here. Let's change this. Fill. We're just going to stroke to it. So we're going to have this section over here. This is going to be our first section that we're going to create. It's just kind of this container over here. And I want to point out that we've been working on grid, so we're going to be using grid to create several different grid layouts, the first one being this navigation. So that's what this video is on right now. So let's go over to our glitch and let's get this started. So I already have some HTML inside of here. One, I've got my container. This is going to contain the entire layout of the page, but unlike usual containers, we're not going to actually display grid in there. What we're going to do is we're going to have a display grid for each of our sections. This first one is our section 1, which has our navigation. So each of our nav items are their own individual divs inside of here. So let's just jump into the CSS and start to make this look more like the website that we have. So first thing that I'm going to do, I'm going to go into my CSS. We've got some default stuff in here, and we've got a container with width and a margin auto. That's just going to center all of our grids that we have inside of our section 1 and inside of our nav. Now, I'm also going to call out the body in here, and I am going to give that a background color. So we're going to give it a background color of purple. That in there. Cool. So we've got that, and now we are going to be starting with that section 1. So in our section 1, if we take a look at this, we want to have 1 row and 5 columns. Each of these columns are equally spaced, and there's just a little gap between each of them. So what we're going to do, we're going to go into our CSS here, and in order to get the grid party started in section 1, we're going to have to use a display grid. So display grid really does nothing. It just creates a 1 column, 1 row grid over here. But now what it does give us access to is these properties that are super important. So grid, template, columns, that's going to be our first one. And we've got 5 columns that are all equal. So we could do the 1 FR, 1 FR, 1 FR, and we could repeat that all the way through, or we can just say repeat. We want to repeat 5 times at a distance of 1 FR, 1 FR. Cool. And you can see already they are starting to look better. Let's go into these nav items. So these are individual nav items. They each have this class, and we're going to give them a background of gold. Gold isn't the exact color, but it's all right. It looks close enough for these purposes. So we've got those right there, and it's looking pretty good. So for each of these nav items, we're going to try and center our text. So we're going to do a text align center. So now our items are centered along there, but there's not that gap that we saw in between. So inside of our grid, we are going to add a gap property, and we're going to set that to 10 pixels. There we go. We've got our gap. And we're looking really close to our final product already, but there's a little bit more margin and padding on these. So let's do that real quick. Inside of our nav, we are going to give these some padding. So I'm going to use the padding property, and I'm going to use 2 values inside of it. The first one is the padding on the top and bottom of the elements. So let's do 5 pixels. And actually, I think that looks pretty good. Now, section 1, I do have a little bit of margin on the top and bottom of these. So inside of section 1, I'm going to use our margin block. Margin block, you can see it pops up gold because this is one of those newer properties that isn't fully adopted yet, but it works. What margin block is short for is throwing a margin on the top and bottom, because those are our block level elements we can move up and down. So we're going to just throw 10 pixels on each of those, and now we got a little gap above and below. That is the first section inside of Tacos. Please reach out if you have any questions. That's it. I'll talk to you later.